Hello everyone, welcome back to another Magic the Gathering Commander review for the Betrayers of Kamigawa set. Today we're talking about Fumiko the Lowblood, who is a legendary human samurai. It has a power toughness of 3-2, it has a mana value of 4, 2 generic and 2 red, and it has the Boschito ability, but it's a little unique. So Fumiko the Lowblood, Fumiko has Boschito X, where X is the number of attacking creatures, which is really cool. So it has the Boschito keyword, but with a slight twist. The more creatures that are attacking, either your opponent's attacking creatures or your attacking creatures, that is important to note, it can get big real fast. And then it has this amazing static ability. Creatures your opponents control attack each combat if able, which is really cool. This is a fun commander to build around, and it really emphasizes on the duality of offense and defense that I love so much about Samurai, because this one forces your opponents to attack, which you are going to take advantage of very heavily, especially in mono red. So let's get right on into it. 2 or 3 rules for this commander. The first one reading is X is variable. The Boschito bonus is calculated each time Fumiko's Boschito trigger resolves, based on the number of attackers at that time. This goes back to what I've said multiple times about Boschito. It does not care about how many creatures are blocking it or it is blocking. It just cares that it meets the blocking or blocked requirement. As soon as that's met, the Boschito triggers and you get the bonus. So the cool thing about Fumiko is Fumiko specifically cares about the number of attacking creatures. So if you were to attack with 5 creatures and Fumiko was blocked, it would get +5/+5 until end of turn, because of the Boschito. Yeah, until end of turn it gets that +5/+5, because that's how many creatures you attacked with. And then, if you had an extra combat spell that you got to attack again, it would still have the original +5/+5. You would attack with the 5 same creatures again. If it got blocked, it would then get an additional +5/+5, which is really cool. This is one of the coolest Boschito effects of all time, because if you do the flip side, remember, Fumiko forces all of your opponent's creatures to attack each combat if able. If they attack you, and for some reason they can have multiple combat steps, the same thing will happen for Fumiko as a defender. It would get, again, flip the tables, they have 5 creatures coming at Fumiko, and you block one of those creatures, Fumiko gets +5/+5. If they have an extra combat spell on their turn, and they attack you again, then Fumiko gets another +5/+5. Hopefully you've killed the first one, so it's actually +4/+4, but regardless, it stacks based on the number of times the block or blocked is triggered, not simply how many creatures. And that's what makes Fumiko so cool, because Fumiko is one of the only samurai that cares about the number of attacking creatures to boost that that Boschito. So really cool stuff. It can get a little confusing, but all in all, just remember that Fumiko will trigger once each combat, essentially, and it gets bigger based on the number of total attacking creatures at the time it was triggered, which is really, really cool. Second rule, Fumiko's ability doesn't force an opponent to pay for effects in order to be able to attack with their creatures, such as Ghostly Prison, for example. And that is a whole, in-depth discussion in and of itself. I remember the Command Zone podcast did explain this very thoroughly, but to summarize, if you have a Ghostly Prison or a Propaganda kind of effect where it's like, you can only attack me if you pay the 2 mana, they do not have to attack you, essentially. What would happen is they would attack you, your propaganda would pop up, or rather the ghostly prison, for example. Your ghostly prison would pop up and say, you want to pay the 2 or not? And if they don't want to pay the 2, then their creature doesn't attack. That's it. That's simple, plain Jane explanation. So when it comes to defendable pillow fort effects like that, it can get around Fumiko's forced combat ability. So be mindful of that. And lastly, Fumiko's ability doesn't force tapped creatures or creatures with summoning sickness to attack. And again, this just comes back to Fumiko's ability saying, creatures your opponents control attack each turn, each combat, if able. If the creature is able to attack you, then they will attack. Or not attack you, but if they are able to attack, they will attack. If they are not able to attack because they were tapped down for mana, or they were tapped down to like crew a vehicle or something, or they have summoning sickness because they were just played, then obviously they can't attack because they are not legally able to attack. So Fumiko does not break the rules of Magic the Gathering, it just forces combat. And a card I chose to synergize with Fumiko is probably what you would want to use as like a finisher card, Disrupt Aorum. Just goad all of your opponent's creatures. This could be also a backup redundancy strategy in case someone does take out Fumiko and you still need to be able to force your opponents to fight during the turn. So good redundancy and very easy to find in mono red goad spells. Of course, the deck idea that I am building, as I mentioned earlier, this is a great commander to emphasize on what I want out of a Boschito deck. So this is taking advantage of the old samurai from the middle that have Boschito. And their main purpose is, yes, they can buff themselves when they become blocked, but really they are going to be the defenders. Especially since we're forcing our opponents to attack us as well as our other opponents. We want to have as many strong defenders as possible. So Boschito as a defensive mechanic is important here. Then we have the new samurai from Neon Dynasty Kamigawa that really emphasizes on warriors and samurai attacking alone to get super powerful triggers. So send in one super attacker that will hopefully also have Boschito, like Fumiko, and then we'll also get these crazy powerful buffs and effects from the new samurai, which also benefits in the same way that the Exalted mechanic works. Exalted gives a creature that attacks alone +1/+1. Now, that's not really common in red. In fact, the Goblin Champion is probably the only red spell that has Exalted on it, but there are other artifacts and lands that you can put in this deck that have Exalted or work functionally similar to Exalted by buffing up a singular creature. And this is going to be really cool. I'm super excited to build this deck because, again, the one samurai you send in is going to be a super tank that can overpower any army on the table, but then you'll be able to defend against all the forced combat creatures coming your way because of Fumiko's ability with all your awesome Bushido defensive abilities. So it's going to be this really fun powerhouse combat heavy deck. And then lastly, a fun janky build around is really just coming down to like a goad deck. Let me just make sure I'm reading through all these cards. Build this as a goad commander and just goad all of your opponents as much as possible. Rite of Raging Storm is really fun. Agitator Ant, Spectacular Showdown. These are all different ways of like forcing the table to hurry up and fight and make quick games, be very aggro, really punish the table for playing slow, and just really push hard for a victory. So very fast. It could bite you in the butt, but it's very fast and very fun. And that's the popular deck idea on EDH Rec. I apologize. That's what's popular on EDH Rec, is a goad strategy. That sounds more correct to me. So, yeah, goad, but this is actually a popular deck idea on EDH Rec. The janky, silly build around is obviously not fighting at all. Fumiko can force your opponents to attack, so let your opponents fight each other, and you build a Pillow Fort mono red deck. But specifically, you could build a defender deck in mono red. Ven Sentinel would obviously be your win condition for this deck. You want to deal damage to your opponents equal to the number of defenders you have. So build a giant army of mono red walls. Have this crazy build around with defender stuff. I think this could be a lot of fun. There's some like, there's not like ghostly prison effects in red, but there are effects in red that punish your opponents for attacking you. And so you could really build this fun like Pillow Fort mono red deck and have Fumiko as your commander, forcing your opponents to fight each other and you, but you're going to have this giant wall that can repel all the combat away from you, which would be really fun. So I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on a Fumiko Forced Combat wall deck. And that is going to do it for Fumiko the Lowblood. Really cool card. I cannot wait to build this deck. And it is a very popular commander to build around, so it does have the rank of S. There's a lot of different ways you can build this commander on EDH Rec. So really cool stuff. I really like this card, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this commander. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything I missed or I did not talk about. Thank you guys so much for all your support, and as always, I'll see you in the next one. Bye!